It's the Brad and John Show.
It's the Brad and John Show, and I'm trying to find, I need to have somebody come in and write me up a list of all my stuff where I don't know where it's at. Hold on, dude. John, I didn't have you turned on. What'd you say again?
You could also just sing the What Would John Do theme song as well, Brad.
That's not as good. Let me see if I can hold on. Okay, I can't find it. Okay. What would John do? What would John do?
Yeah, so tell us what happened yesterday, Brad.
No, this happened on Friday, John.
Friday.
I had an interesting 24 hours. On Friday, I got burnt, and on Saturday, I got burnt, okay? I go to pay my property taxes in Warren County at the Warren County Collector's Office, okay? Not a lot of property taxes. Number off the top of my head, $1,186. Okay, not a lot of property taxes, right? So on the way out there, I have cash. And I think to myself, you know what? I need to really have some kind of a paper trail on this. I go to my bank and I get a money order because I'm a cheapskate. A money order is $2. A cashier's check is $10. So I get a money order for $999.99 because you can't go over $1,000 with a money order, okay? So I jump back in my car and I drive out to Warrenton and I go to pay my taxes. And the lady out there who I know and unfortunately knows me, and to a point where if you've ever been out there, the people in Warren County know exactly what I'm talking about. You walk up to the window and it's like the bank tellers, they have the bulletproof glass and the whole bit. And she sees me, her office is in the back, and she sees me, and the lady who comes up to me is starting to work with me, and she comes up and she takes over, okay? And once again, I'm paying like $1,186. So I give her the money order and the cash, and she refuses it. Okay?
Now, why is that, Brad?
I asked the same question. And she said, you can only have one form of payment at a transaction.
You're kidding me. So you couldn't put half on a card and half on a check, for example?
Well, any combination thereof, if you like, and they will accept credit cards. In other words, if you had a credit card that's, let's say I had a credit card that had a $500 credit limit on, or $1,000 credit limit. Let's just $1,000 be a perfect example, because I had a $999.99 cashier's or money order. Okay, if I were to pull out my credit card and said, okay, run the other in credit, sorry, can't do that. And I said to her, hold on a minute, I'm giving you a money order. And then she says, well, it's a personal money order. I go, I don't think they have business money orders. When you go to the bank, it's a stupid money order. You know what I'm saying? There's not.
I get it.
There's not a difference between. And I have the cash. She refuses them. She said, no, not taking it. And she gets and she says to me, we always have problems with you. And I'm going like, okay, I'm here to pay my taxes. I have a money order and cash. You won't take my money. And let's flip that around, John. If a client called me up and said, hey, Brad, I want to pay you for my advertising. Can I come over? I got some cash, I got some money order, and I got a credit card. Are we good? Come on over, man. We'll take care of it. You know what I'm saying?
I get exactly what you're saying. That surprises me. Now, Brad, my first inclination, and this is really logistical here, but can't someone overrule her? Or does she have the authority to say, we are not taking your money, and that's the final thing?
I said to her, where is this written out? And she says, there's a clause in the county rules that say the collector has discretion as to what form of payment they take. And I go, okay. And I said to her, do you take money orders? She says, yes. And I said, do you take cash? She says, yes. And I said, okay, here's money orders and cash. Well, you can't split it like that. I'm going like, okay, this is so.
Well, can't you do, let me interrupt, Brad. Can't you do two separate, like, can't you pay partial with one and then make a new transaction and then pay the balance?
No. And I even said to her, I said, look, if you don't want the cash, take the money order, because the crazy thing was when I get the money order in my bank, they're blank. It just has the amount of money. And she's in, I'm literally writing Warren County Collector as I'm talking to her. So I've already written out the stupid money order. Okay. And I said, I've already written it out. I said, just take it. She says, nope, I'm not going to take it. So I did a Brad Butthead thing. I took my pen And on the amount where it said $999.99, she says, the money order has to be for the full amount. So I scratched out 999.99 and I wrote on top of it 1186.20, whatever the amount was. She says, now you've just voided that. She says, I can't take that. The bank won't take that. I go, well, you won't take it anyway. So yesterday I go back to my bank and I go like, I got this money order and can I put this money back in my account? And the guy looks at it and he goes, why did you scratch out the amount and put another amount? I go, it's a long story. And so a supervisor has to come over and they have to say, well, we'll put this money back in your account. But the problem is when it goes to our back office, they may reject this and they may debit the money out of your account because you've essentially You've altered the money order. I go,
oh, good grief.
I'm going like, does this story just get any worse or what? So I'm going like, and see, I thought the same thing. I thought to myself, okay, why is she queen of the world? And she says to me, the reason I'm doing this is because it's too much work for our staff. And I'm going
see, there you go. It always comes down to the fact they don't want to put in any more effort, Brad. She was probably in a nice game of Candy Crush, and here comes Brad Hildebrand. I'm serious. You never can expect anybody working in a government office or a customer-facing office to do more work than necessary. So
I tell these stories, and people think, okay, that didn't really happen. Her name is, and I can't remember it off the top of my head. I can't remember her name now. And the problem on this is, I'll tell you one other story. Her predecessor was this woman who was a former teacher. And I used to kid her about the fact that she was double dipping, that she was already getting her pension. And at the time when she was the collector, and I can't remember her name either, and at the time she admitted to me she was already getting her pension from being a school teacher. So she was, working as the county collector in Warren County, and she was going to get a pension from them. And this is back in the day when, if you remember, this has changed quite a bit. But back in the day, and when I first bought the radio station in Washington, we had a 239, or back then it was a 314-239, which switched into 636. Okay, in a lot of these small towns, the only call that you could make that was toll-free was to another person in that city. And in Washington at the time, it was 239 and 390. If you called any other exchange, it was a toll call. And we used to have, if we called Union, if we called St. Charles, if we called Marthasville, we got a toll call. My phone bill, because my salespeople weren't just selling in Washington, they were selling all over the place. I'd get like $2,000 phone bills because all this long distance, okay? So I go and I call this woman. This is going back 15, 20 years ago. I called this woman several times, and she never returns my phone calls. Never, because I got some questions. And it's a complicated deal because what she did with my property, I won't go into that. It's a crazy, weird story. It's just bizarre. So I drive out there one day, and I go into her office. I say, I call you all the time, and you never return my phone calls. And she says, well, that's because it would cost me to call you back. And I said, what? Let me turn my hearing up here again about it. What now again? She says, your number is a St. Louis number because my cell phone is a 314 number. Your St. Louis, it was cost me a toll call to call your number. I go, isn't that like the cost of doing business? Don't you have a budget for that? Well, I don't spend any extra money that I don't have to. So isn't that part of like doing your duty that if somebody calls you, unless they're not in Warrenton, you don't call them back? She says, I'm not going to spend money to call you back. That's what she said to me. I'm going like, okay, John, let's put that in private sector, okay? I want to give someone some money, and I call them, or they call me, and I don't call them back. Or let's turn it around. Someone's going to pay me money. They're going to buy advertising, and they call me, and I don't call them back. And then one day they show up in my office. They go, hey, I called you. Well, you know what? I was going to call you back, but I realized it was going to be a toll call, and I don't want to.
Yeah, they're proverbially stepping over pennies or stepping over dollar bills to pick up pennies, right? Like they're missing the big picture, which seems to be what that woman was doing. Now, did you say that was the woman previous to this current woman?
No, that was the previous woman. And God, I could tell you a crazy story about how they, I could tell you a story that revolved around this. At one point in time, the collector, when they were in their old building, the collector and the assessor were across the hall from each other. And it got into a war between the way that my property was being assessed and the way she was trying to collect the money. And I would say to her, I would say to her, can't you just walk across the hall and talk to that guy? And she'd say, no, I'm not going to do that. So at one point in time, I literally did this, John. Literally, their offices were across the hall. I went in her office. I says, come here a minute. Come right here to the door. And she did. She went right to the door. And I went across to the assessor's office, and I said to him, hey, come here a minute. I said, stand right here. I said, talk to each other. I stood in the middle of the hall, and they both turned around and walked in their office. I swear that is a true story. I stack of Bibles. I swear that's a true story. And that shows you just how dysfunctional government can be. These two people.
So what's now, Brad, if you're not in arrears, like if you're not overdue with your payment, can you simply and unfortunately just get whatever you need for the total sum amount and then fix it today?
I can, but I got to drive back out to Warrenton.
Yeah. And what's the option for paying this online?
It can't.
You can't pay it at all online?
No, it's a long story. I'll tell you that later. Okay. Secondly, I'm cutting grass at my transmitter site in Warren County on Saturday morning. Get out there early. Get my big old zero turn that I bought used several years ago. Okay. I'm cutting the grass, and it's hot, and I'm sweating like a proverbial pig. This is probably about 9:30 in the morning. I'm cut quite a bit, and I smell something, and I'm going like, I wonder what that is. And I start cutting more. All of a sudden, the engine dies, and I turn around, and my zero turn is on fire. And when I say on fire, flames shooting up like 2 or 3 feet. And if you know anything about a zero turn, you sit in the seat, and this is a water-cooled zero turn. So literally, within inches of the back of my seat, actually against the back of my seat is the radiator. And as I turn around to see the flames shoot up, the flames melt the radiator hose, and the radiator hose bursts, and I get sprayed with steaming hot antifreeze, okay? So then, and this gets more complicated because I'm on my zero turn, and I have a seat belt because I have a rope system, and I go up and down hills, because that's you're supposed to wear the seat belt if the thing turns over. That's what saves you. It's like a roll bar. They call it ropes, rollover protection system.
Got it. We got it.
I can't get the seat belt off because of the fact that the seat belt's not in the best of shape. The buckle's a little bit worn. I keep hitting the button. I can't, and I'm sitting there on my zero turn. It's on fire. I just got sprayed with antifreeze, and I finally get off, and I run to my car, and I thought to myself, oh, crap, I took the fire extinguisher out. I had a fire extinguisher in my car, normally carry one all the time. Took it out because I was moving some stuff, and I needed extra space in the trunk. So I go to try to put out the fire. I grab some wet grass that I just cut, threw it on, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. So finally, I walk back about 30, 40 feet. Now, keep in mind, the gas tank is right underneath where the engine sits as well, too. I mean, literally, from the point where the fire is at to the filler neck to the gas tank is like maybe 6 inches, okay? I'm going like, you know what? I've done stupid things in my life. I'm just going to dial 911, which I did. And the Marthasville Fire Department showed up, and the guy put it out. Now, the interesting part of it was, I don't know who it was. I should have gotten his name. I don't know if he was the fire chief or the battalion chief. He insisted I get checked out by the paramedics. And I told him, I said, look, he says, turn around. And I turned around. He says, nope, you need to be checked out by the paramedics. So I said, I'm fine. There's nothing wrong with me. Paramedics get there, and they look at me, and this is sort of funny. The paramedic says to me, he says, I think you were saved by the fact that you're so sweaty. And I thought to myself, well, let me think about that for a minute. He's right. The flames were licking at my back, but because of the fact that my shirt was sweaty and my neck was sweaty and my hair was sweaty and the flames were, licking around the back of my...
They were flame retardants.
Right. It made it flame retardant. So they checked me out, and I got, still this day, I got a little bit on my neck where it looks like I got a little bit of a bad sunburn. So between not having my tax payment accepted at Warren County, and then literally within, that was about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so probably that would make it about 16 hours later, I have another bad experience in Warren County. I think I need to stay the hell out of Warren County. What do you think, John?
I don't know about that. I think that you shouldn't blame Warren County. And I think the important thing is, Brad, you're an optimistic guy. Are there any things in your process, like, I don't know, making payments or buying newer equipment that might be process improvements that could save you from the hassle of driving to Warren County and getting rejected, or the hassle of a lawnmower bursting into flames? Are there any steps you could take to avoid that in the future?
John, I'm not bragging, but this lawnmower new would probably, if you were to buy this same lawnmower today, it's a Skag, it's an expensive lawnmower, it's like top of the line lawn equipment.
It would be like $20,000 or something like that. I remember you mentioned that. How much would it cost every time you had someone cut that grass for you if you contracted that out?
The problem is, this is a terrible situation with broadcasters because of the fact that I have 2 towers with 6 guy wires there, and this happens time and time and time again. The tower owners, that they hire somebody to cut the grass, and one of the tractors hits the guy wires and pulls the tower down.
I see what you're saying. Okay, so in other words, you trust yourself to not hit the guy wire, but you wouldn't.
The problem is that most of your lawn service companies that do this will refuse to do it because their insurance won't cover it.
I get what you're saying. Okay, that's a good point then, Brad. I mean, that's really good context. Yeah.
I asked them specifically, do you have, because when I did this, I talked to some companies, and I got a guy right now who's sort of after the fact who may be interested in doing it. And it's funny because he called me a couple weeks ago and wanted to do some business with me. And he says, maybe I can cut your grass for you at your transmitter side. And I go, we'll talk about it. But once again, it's a situation where it's a unique aspect of broadcasting because.
Yeah, I see. It's not like having what you're saying is, it's not like having somebody cut your back pasture or your backyard.
Right.
Like like there's way more that goes in. I didn't know that. That's interesting.
And to be honest with you, about, was it last year or the year before, I know what I'm doing, and I cut one of my turnbuckles with the lawnmower, and the top of the tower almost fell over. I mean, that was me knowing what I'm doing, and that's what I'm saying. The average person wouldn't, and talk to anybody who has their lawn care done. One of the biggest things they complain about is the fact that the guy with the lawnmower, he whacked up against the side of their house, or he whacked up against.
Or they hit the irrigation stuff. They don't care. They hit the fence.
Right. They hit the fence, hit the mailbox, that kind of stuff. So, nothing against the lawn care guys, but, they're in a business, time's money, and I get it. They're trying to put that lawnmower down, get the grass cut, put it back on the trailer, and get out as quick as they can. And they're not going to, most of them aren't. They're not going to take the extra time. So, anyway, that's my stupid story, John. I will keep you updated on this. As a matter of fact, I might even go back out there today. But the crazy thing about it was, I've told this story to other people, and they go, okay, now hold on a minute now. What's wrong with a money order in cash? I go, that's what I said, but don't talk to the collector in Warren County because she won't approve of that. I go,
hey, after 10 a.m. today, you can take your complaint to Attorney General Catherine Hanaway. And I bet she'll prioritize it.
No, I can take it to Ricky Schroeder, and Ricky will say, Brad, I appreciate all the good things you say about your show. And matter of fact, I'm in the Bill Eigel camp. This is Ricky Schroeder saying, send me a tape of all the bad things you've said about me. I never said anything bad about Ricky Schroeder. And
then you break into song and you sang, 2 silver spoons together, me and Ricky.
That's right. Okay, John, we beat this one to death. Talk to you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, Brad.